Hello there. You are listening to the Girl Talk podcast brought to you by the Stoner Group at UBS Financial. Hello there. My name is Carol.
This is Alicia.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And today we are reflecting on something that we've seen. I saw this video from Louis Giglio a while back, and I played it some time ago on the show, and we started talking about it here in the office. It was
so good.
Yeah, such a good. We'll attach the video in the show notes for you so that you can go watch it. Maybe even before you listen to this podcast. Maybe you want to push pause. We give you permission to do that. Watch the video and then come on back. But it's a great video about who you invite to sit at your table. You know, it reminds me of middle school. You know, you walk into the middle school cafeteria and it's like,
it's a scary place.
It is a scary place. I even went to the middle school cafeteria the other day to pick up my daughter. It's still a scary place.
No.
It's forever scary.
For different reasons now. But, you know, you were always looking for that place to sit. And Louis starts out talking about the verse that says, "You have prepared a table for me in the presence of my enemies." And he identifies a couple of areas where you've invited the devil to sit down at your table, which for all of us, you're like, I haven't. The devil doesn't have a seat at my table. But Louis identifies 3 areas where you might have invited the devil to sit down at your table.
I think that's what's so powerful about it is that who thinks that they invited the devil to sit down with them?
Yeah.
No one has said, "Come on in here." No one has said that.
Yeah.
But after listening to this, it's a whole different perspective.
Yeah. And he talks about different areas like you're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. You aren't smart enough. You're not skinny enough. You're not blah, 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 fill in the blank. And that if you're believing that and hearing that today, you've asked the enemy to sit down at your table. Another area is everyone's against you. Sometimes it's easy to fall into that trap, especially I think now on social media. You know, because of what we see, and we do so much comparison, and my dinner's not as good as her dinner, no matter who she invites to sit at her table. You know, it's going to be a good meal. But I think that is so prevalent in today's society, and I don't know. I am convicted every time I watch that video because I realize that there are areas of my life where I need to do a check-in.
Well, and who doesn't fall into that trap?
Yeah.
Of I'm not good enough. Any of these 3 categories I feel like are pretty universal, that anyone that's listening is going to be nodding their head saying, yes, that's me. I've done that. I'm not good enough. Someone said something to me and I took it way too personally and overreacted maybe even.
Right.
And that's not the truth.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, one of these seats at the table tends to give way to another. You know, when you're not good enough, you tend to say everybody's against me. And I'm forgetting the third one. Do you remember?
I know what it is.
What is
it? It's you're not going to make it.
You're not going to make
it.
And
that's one that I've been fighting.
Sure.
So that's
powerful.
A powerful one, yeah. But you're right. Once you open the door to one of those, you are allowing all 3 of them to be possibilities.
Sure.
And what I took away from this is it's not something, like you said, that you're inviting the devil, come on in. It's actually, if you let your guard down, he comes and sits. True. And that's what was so powerful to me, because there's never been a time when I've been like, come on in, I don't care.
I'd love to see the devil today.
But exactly.
I
but
think
if you just let your guard down.
Yeah.
You don't even realize he's sitting there.
Yeah.
You just, I think it's almost like an invisible person at the table. You don't even see it. And because you're believing all of these lies that either someone told you, or you heard, or you felt, or you imagined, and you think it's true.
Well, it sounds like you. Do you know what I mean? The way he talks to us sounds a lot like the way we talk to ourselves.
Talk about that, Tricia.
Well, I mean, I think if the wording were different, if it were a specific weird way of hearing something, it would be different. But I think that he really tries to get in by making it sound like it comes from our own head.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to make it is something that I've been fearing because I've been going through a grief process, and I think, well, I'm never going to recover from this. I'm never going to be who I was before. And there's a part of that that's actually true because of grief, but the larger part of it, that you're not going to make it, you're not strong enough to get through this, is, I think it's straight from the devil.
Yeah.
But it sounds like my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And so how do you combat that?
Well, before we go any further to combating it, I want to talk about identifying it because I think that's key. At least it was for me when I watched this video. I was like, oh, I identified it because you're right. You never say, hey, devil, what are you doing tomorrow night at 7? Can you come sit down at my table?
I got a little bit of time.
Let's enjoy a Caesar salad.
And what are you going to tell me?
Exactly. So I thought of this verse, and I'm total transparency. I don't know this one by heart, so I had to Google it real quick. But 1 Peter 5:8 says this: be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. His whole MO is to devour you. That's a strong word.
That's really, I have a vision that I don't want.
I know.
We use the word enemy, and that has a connotation to it. But in the video, he said there's a killer at your
I
table.
know.
Yep.
And that's a powerful
He said that, and
understanding.
that scared me.
Because he wants to kill us.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistake that
Devour.
he's just kind of a funny little guy in a red suit.
Yeah. And we try to ease up. We call him the enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the enemy. Well, you can have enemies that aren't,
Right.
Scary people.
Right.
But
They're
when
not going to kill you necessarily.
when you get to the bottom of it and you say, man, he is
Mm-hmm.
prowling around looking to devour me. If we could get a hold of that truth, I think it would make us more guarded. More vigilant. Yes, there you go. About where our thoughts go.
Yep.
And I don't know about you guys, but once the ball gets rolling, it rolls downhill very quickly and it gets bigger.
Oh, it does. And then everything
bigger.
becomes, oh, you heard something and you're wondering about that, and then the next thing comes and it all adds
It's confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're building evidence
Yeah.
that nobody likes you, or you're not
Yeah.
you're not good enough, and you're not gonna get through it. Yeah.
I had this real sobering moment just last night in a conversation with my daughter, who is a middle schooler, and we were talking about a situation that she was in, and I referenced the movie Inside Out. Have you both seen the movie Inside Out? Well, the whole premise, it's a Pixar movie, a little kids movie, and it's the premise of the movie is that there are all these emotions sitting at the control board of this little girl's mind, and they create memories. And it just shows how life works inside her head, right? And so I said to my daughter, I said, do you remember the movie Inside Out? And she goes, yeah. And I said, you get to decide who runs the control board of your mind.
Yes.
And I said, to her, I said, well, who do you think you've been allowing to run your control board? And she said, I think what other people think of me.
Oh, yes.
And I had to confess to her as a mom, I was like, Ella, I do that very same thing. I let other people run the control board of my mind, and God is supposed to run the control board of my mind. And it was such a powerful moment between the two of us to take something that we knew so well, because we've watched that movie about 450,000
It's a great visual.
Yeah. And I told her, and I said, and I went one step further. I said, the song You Say by Lauren Daigle? I said, Lauren Daigle, by all accounts, is a rock star in Christian music. She's won awards. She's so gifted. She's in the spotlight. But if she struggles with that, and I as a mom struggle with that, and you as a middle schooler struggle with that, tell me that's not somewhere where the enemy is prowling around trying to devour us.
That is the truth.
And we had this little bonding moment, which is few and far between.
Take it.
Right. But it was a great conversation on, like, who are you letting sit at the control panel of your life? Because I had to ask myself some tough questions in the middle of that conversation. And I think that's a question to ask yourself today. And here's one of the other things that frustrates me about myself is that I get in like automatic pilot. And I'm not vigilant about controlling those thoughts. And when I just click into that automatic pilot mode, everything just comes here and there and here and there.
I think that is such a key for every part of our life, no matter what we're going through right now. Because I know that if I do not start my day, or if I don't focus during the day on what God says, on the truth, and I go automatic pilot on how I feel, or how I feel like somebody treated me, or some thought that pops into my head, I go downhill so fast. That is a really powerful reminder, Carol.
Yeah.
And I want to say good on Ella for remembering that and being able to be that self-aware at her age. So good on you.
Well,
I
I told the Lord. Because I make a ton more mistakes than things I get right. But that was just truly a moment in time where I was just like, thank you, Lord, for planting that in my mind during these tumultuous years when I can confess to her and say, I struggle with that same thing. I'm in a profession where we get ratings every 6 weeks, for goodness sake. People like you, people hate you, people like you, people hate you. Yeah. It's up and down all the time. And that constant desire to please people is usually the place where I find the most struggle in my own life. Yeah, in my own life, because I feel like I'm not, measuring up. I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as blank. I'm not as, talented as blank. I'm not as skinny as blank. It's always
and
that
a lot
striving.
of times those other things aren't really what they seem either. Oh, right. So we're comparing ourselves to an untruth to begin with.
Right.
That's true. That's very, very true.
We're essentially comparing ourselves to a facade.
Yeah.
Like looking at those airbrushed pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't look like that. Well, guess what? Neither does she.
Yeah.
She didn't this morning.
Yeah. Should have seen her when she first got up. Right. Exactly. So how do we battle? How do we fight back? How do we make the most of this opportunity?
You said it. You got to be aware of it first.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And then you've got to be proactive. This is what I'm learning. Proactive. Don't wait until you're starting to go down the slippery slope. Start the day or start the moment or start the middle of the day, wherever you are, and refocus on what God says.
I think one of the most powerful things for me, I saw this on, I think it was a video, but there was I think one of you posted it, actually. There was a lady who had a board in their classroom, and it had all these different things on it, like, I'm doing good today. And a kid could take a sticky note, put their name on it.
Yes.
I think it was you that posted it.
It was a while ago, but yeah.
And then I'm not doing so good today.
Yeah.
You could put a sticky note there.
Yes.
I need somebody to check in on me
That's
today.
right.
Yeah.
I
love the reality of that.
Yeah, and I think we as women need to give ourselves permission to check in on each other. And to be honest, because I tell you what, I am sick of the words, I'm fine.
Yes, they stick in my mouth.
I am sick of myself saying I'm fine.
I'm okay.
Because
I'm all right. I'm
not.
fine.
I am not fine.
It's okay.
And we need to come. In fact, let's just strike that from the Girl Talk Dictionary. I'm fine is no longer in it.
Well,
I'm doing rotten today.
Yeah. Well, but I think that's what is so powerful about the connection here is that we can come to each other and say, "Hey guys, I'm not having a good day today. I was not having a good day yesterday," and it's okay to say that.
It is.
And where did we lose the freedom to say that? But here's and this is in terms of full vulnerability. We all serve in ministry. And if you serve in ministry too, you have got to find somebody to check in with. Because here is the reality, is that if you don't find somebody to check in with, that is the very place that the devil's going to attack and devour you and your ministry and everything you want to do, because we feel this responsibility to have all the spiritual answers and all the spirit. We just got to say something spiritual all the time. Well, doggone it, there's some days I don't want to say anything spiritual. It's not that I don't believe. It's not that I don't believe with my whole heart that God is good and that Jesus will do what he says he will do. I believe those truths with my whole heart, but there are days that it's hard. Yeah. And I don't need you to judge me. I need you to walk with me through it and to remind me of truth in the middle of it. And if you are in ministry and you don't have somebody doing that for you, you are headed for a dangerous end. I just feel like I need to say that because I am subject to that as well, because I'm the funny one. That's kind of my role. I'm the goofball. And I take that role very seriously, matter of fact. And but if I feel like I can't perform at that level and be the funny goofball, then I withdraw. And that's where I get into trouble. That's where these thoughts start, just one after the other. Well, you're not as funny as so and so, and you're not good enough. And if you really believe this, you wouldn't be having this kind of day, and you wouldn't be struggling. You wouldn't no. On and on and on and on. So anybody. You need to find somebody that you can check in with.
Well, I think that's one of the things Tricia's mentioned, starting in the morning with getting yourself prepared for something to happen, right? And then checking in with somebody, I think, is another great thing, because if you wake up and you're already in that mindset, and then someone comes in and they don't say you look nice, or they say something and you
look sick.
Are you okay? You look tired.
Yeah.
And then that will trigger you that takes you a step down. And throughout the day, I feel like it can get worse and worse and worse.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think having someone that you could check in with. And then on the way in here this morning, I heard on one of our programs, have cards with scriptures on it that are set Like, you could categorize them, you could do whatever, but have them ready so that you could open those up when you are down, when you are having a hard time, when you are listening to these lies, and you can listen to the truth in that moment.
Because I am a dollar store professional.
There you go.
What I consider myself, a bargain professional. The dollar store sells wire-bound index cards, and they are wonderful for that.
Oh, okay.
So just make yourself, it's index card size, so it'll fit in your purse really easily. Will be in your car, in between the seats, wherever you need it. But they're little spiral-bound index cards, and you can flip them over. And here's what I want you to remember, that it's probably not something new every week. It's probably that same thing that you struggle with.
Yeah.
It's probably, for me, I'm going to tell you, the first place that he attacks is my weight. The first place.
So don't get on the scale in the morning.
Yeah. But I'm working on that. Yeah. And I'm working on changing that. And the scale is not a number. That doesn't tell you. It's just a number. It doesn't tell you who I am, And so if there's a particular area that you struggle in.
That's a good example.
True.
Yeah, you need to write
Because it could be something, it
truth.
Doesn't have to be something spiritual. It could be something very simple.
Absolutely.
That get
Intelligence or your kids.
Oh,
or
yeah.
how you're doing financially.
Oh,
all
yeah.
of those things.
Yeah.
You got to fight it with truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing I don't want you to hear, because I know, because I do this. So I have friends who don't have a similar situation. I'm a single parent. Y'all know that. And so I'll have people who in the midst are trying to help me with single parenting things, and they'll give me scriptures, and I like roll my eyes. Y'all ever roll your eyes? Like, you don't do it externally, but in your mind you're thinking,
Sure.
She has no idea what I am going through. You get that whole mentality. But, and I've heard this verse, you just need to rejoice in the Lord. You just rejoice in the Lord, and everything will be okay. Rejoice in the Lord. And I'm thinking, I want to throat punch you. But I know they have clear they have good motives for telling you. And I got to thinking about this morning, and I was, that verse showed up in my quiet time. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. And I was like, okay. So what does that even mean? I had this little sarcastic attitude. And I said, what is that? Well, it doesn't say rejoice in your circumstance. It doesn't say rejoice in your weight. It doesn't say rejoice in your cheesecake. It doesn't say rejoice in your house that you live in. It doesn't say any of that. It says rejoice in the Lord. I think most of the time we get tripped up on the things that are right in front of us, and the eternal value of what's ahead of us loses its focus. We forget to focus on that. We were focused on what's right here, right now, and how we wish we could change it. And so I want to tell you that the most powerful thing that you can do is hang on to truth. And I don't tell you that from a Sunday school judgmental kind of attitude at all. But I want to tell you that truth will stand when nothing else will. So go to the dollar store, the DG, the Dollar Tree, the Family Dollar, wherever you go to get dollar stuff. Yeah. They have those little wire-bound. Yeah, they have those little wire-bound index cards. Go get you some and start writing scriptures, because
Write them.
You will need them, and pull them out in the middle of the grocery store. In the middle of frozen foods if you need them, girl.
Yes.
You do that. So identify that we do have a real enemy who is prowling around looking to devour you and me. Combat it with truth. And check in with somebody. Find somebody that you can check in with. And hey, if you just moved here and you're just listening to the Girl Talk podcast for the first time, check in with us.
Yep, we'd love to hear from you.
We would love that.
We
All
love
you got to do.
letters.
Yep.
It's so funny because we get an email, we send it to each other, and then we all print it off.
Forward it around.
We got a text that I would need to send to you guys.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
So we get
It's
excited.
very encouraging. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we
we
get
love
very
that.
excited hearing from you, because we want to talk about the things that matter to you. So you can always email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. You can also text the word podcast to 800-293-1069 to get the latest podcast anytime. And we would just love to hear from you. We'd love for you to check in and say, this is how I'm really doing, because that's where honest conversations start, and that's where victory begins. So let us hear from you. I want to say a thank you to our friends at the Stoner Group at UBS Financial for their support of the Girl Talk podcast. And we will see you next time we gather right here around these microphones for the Girl Talk podcast.